What I've got for you today is a best of 9 series of top level StarCraft Evolution. This is StarCraft 1 going up against StarCraft 2. Now for some reason, the players are playing in colors that I have not ever seen used before in 1v1. I know that when you play team games and custom matches, additional colors do unlock for StarCraft, but usually I do not believe that these are available for 1v1. Either way, spotting right here in the bright pink colors, playing with the Terran SCVs. Also, probably worth noting, playing with StarCraft 2 units, we have none other than Bjorn and his opponent representing the teal, I guess? The turquoise? I don't really know. Anyways, representing the Brood War drones. We're looking inside of the main base of Rogue. Now, this particular series was played as of me casting it last night. As you may have already noticed, the scoreboard, it does say 1-0 in favor of Bjorn, and that is because for some odd reason the replay of game number 1 has been corrupted. So fingers crossed that the rest of this series is actually watchable. Game number 2 works. But I guess if you're listening to this on YouTube in the future, that means that the rest of the series was fine. Not exactly sure. I tried re-downloading it, I tried switching servers, I tried renaming the file. I guess it has to do with the fact that this is, well, made in a custom StarCraft 2 mod. So in case you're unfamiliar, StarCraft Evolution, it is a mod that's been in development for maybe even like a couple of years at this point, where one of the players will be playing StarCraft 1, the other one will be playing StarCraft 2. They have adjusted the way that maps work. Obviously, they've had to rebalance a bunch of the units, and they've made loads of changes over the last year or so, and at this point, it's an extremely competitive mod. Now, this particular match is a show match series organized by Enki, so big shout out to him for sending me these games to go ahead and cast for you, because I have been really enjoying StarCraft Evolution as of late, and there have been some large tournaments played in this mod over the last few months as well, but right now it seems like we are in between a bunch of the bigger events, so this will be a nice best of 9 to hold us over until once more some of those other events begin up. Now, it's gonna be a Zergling speed opener right here for Rogue, no surprise. He's already adding on a very quick 3rd hatchery as well. We have a 4th hatchery right over here, right between the bases. Obviously, in StarCraft 1, you do not have access to, well, for example, queens that inject your bases. There are queens, but of course they can fly. Look at these little Zerglings, man. Ugh! They have very human hands. How have I never looked at a Zergling up close? Is this a new skin? Why do their 2 upper arms look like human arms? They have 4 fingers, I think. Yeah. Maybe it's the color. They have flippers as well. I think every time I've zoomed in on a Zergling, I've been obsessed by the flippers. They look like an aquatic creature. Anyways, we're making hatcheries left, right, and center. I think what Rogue is doing is a Zergling flood. A good old Zergling flood. This is every Zerg player's first build order. Here we go. Metabolic boost has been completed. Obviously, Zerglings are very cheap as far as the amount of minerals go, but very expensive as far as the amount of larvae goes. So Rogue is trying to solve that just by making a whole lot of hatcheries. And I don't really know exactly when he's planning on running them in, but I don't think he has much of another option. He does go for a lair, so maybe we will go for Muras eventually. We're, by the way, on a map that I have not seen before. It's called Kion. Or Kaiwan? I would imagine it's Kion. I thought this was actually a Brood War map, but there's a giant highway right over here in the middle with speed-up circles, and I wonder if that is what prompted Rogue to go for this cheese. I love the sound effect of the Zerglings attacking, man, but they are not going to be able to do nearly as much as Rogue was hoping for. Alright, crisis averted, we need to go back home. For what it's worth, in StarCraft 1, Zerglings are really, really powerful. Obviously, though, that game is balanced a little bit differently. For example, you can only select a very finite amount of units in one go, so just literally controlling 30 Zerglings is going to require 3 hotkeys. Not a problem over here. Plus, of course, we're playing in the StarCraft 2 engine, and units like, for example, the Zergling here will know how to, well, walk a lot more efficiently than StarCraft 1 units usually do. But you can see that their DPS is still quite a bit bigger than StarCraft 2 Zerglings usually would be. Okay, so it's not actually Muras on the back of this. We have a lot of drones to try and catch up economically. And now we have a Hydra Den, where he is researching the Lurker aspect. So a lot of additional gases are coming up right now. Keep in mind that Lurkers in Brood War are generally quite a bit weaker than the StarCraft 2 counterparts. So usually StarCraft 1 Zerglings are stronger than the StarCraft 2 Zerglings. I would say that the StarCraft 2 Lurkers, though, are stronger than the StarCraft 1 Lurkers. And the main reason for that is that these units come out way quicker. You, well, could just get the Lurker research done right over here, and you don't really have to worry about going up to a hive nearly as quickly. For now, though, Bjorn seems to be having a good old time. He's got a whole load of barracks here. He did start off with a very quick triple Rex, by the way. But he's going into the +1. He's already got Stimpack done. When he arrives on the other side of the map, combat shields and +1 will finish up right around the same time. And this is going to be a very, very scary army to stop without splash damage. Now, I think Rogue is reading this correctly. He is indeed getting those Lurkers morphed in right now. Can we get the job done in time? I think he should be okay. There is a sunken colony over here as well on the high ground. Obviously, that's something as well that needs to be respected. Those Lurkers need to get in position. But once they are, I mean, are we going to stim in? Yeah, I don't think so. He killed a 1, but I don't think he can really easily move forward. Bjorn, of course, very fond, though, of this type of elevator play. He doesn't know if there's Lurkers hiding on the high ground, too. Decides to conservatively land over here inside of the corner of the main base. Love the Marines on the low ground, by the way. They should be able to help out, but there are additional Lurkers right now, and yep, Bjorn is going to have to pick up, get out of there yet again. More barracks building. Third command center now also coming up. Armory, second NG bay. All right, we've got ourselves a nice little macro game. I really like these colors, by the way, for both players. We don't really have a bright pink like this usually. I really do like the pink especially. It's kind of sick. Anyhow, Rogue manages to escape after a pretty terrible early game, all things considered. The speed-up circles are tempting both of the players quite a lot, it seems. This really, by the way, does look like a map that has been meant for StarCraft 2, but it's very different than what we ordinarily see. It has a very Brood War-esque layout. Maybe it is a StarCraft 1 map that then has been adjusted to feature some more of the StarCraft 2 mechanics. Like, for example, watchtowers and speed-up circles and all the rest of it. I'm not exactly sure, but it is cool to see. Bunch of Hydras now joining in the fray as well. Now, by the way, I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but in case this is the first time you see StarCraft Evolution, usually the way that this works is that the players will alternate. So we've had a couple of different themes, it seems. Sometimes it seems to be like a loser's pick. So the loser of the series gets to choose which of the two players gets to play Brood War, which one of them gets to play StarCraft 2. Usually, though, it's alternating. So most of the time we see the one player playing StarCraft 2 initially, and then swapping over to StarCraft 1, and vice versa. I'm assuming that will be what we get over here. Now, the Queen's Nest is already getting the Broodlings upgrade. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that we didn't have any queens. Well, other than these, we indeed do not. No queens, at least, to spread creep. No queens to, well, inject hatcheries. But we can, however, insta-kill units and spawn Broodlings in them, which is pretty darn good as well. Obviously, one of the famous spellcasters from StarCraft 1. Hydras, though, are really powerful, too, not to be underestimated. And yeah, well, I don't really mind the pushing here from Beyond. It's not really making a whole lot of headway. I would imagine this is going to be the Adrenal Glands research. It's got a different icon than the StarCraft 2 one, but that should be the attack speed improvement for the Lynx. Queens need to get some energy going, though, and that takes a while, right? This is not a spell that you can just use. Is it 75 or 100 or 125? I actually don't know. So we'll have to see whenever this little spell over here lights up, because that will be what Mr. Rogue is waiting for. He's now past 75. Nope, it's not yet available. He can use Parasite if he wants to, but I don't think that will be too useful. But he does intercept. Woo! 2 medevacs full of units. I would imagine the Parasite ability is 100 energy. So if that's the case, we are just a few seconds away. Zerg in the meantime, though, maybe it's 125. Could very well be. It's more. It's more than 100. My god. Zerg counterattack is going to hurt. Bjorn is dealing a lot of damage on the other side of the map, too. But this is a really big issue. Losing the 2 medevacs and then having those units camping out in the middle. This gigantic Hydra Zergling counterattack may just be a little bit too much. Okay, it's a bit of a bloodbath as well, though, for the Zerg units. I don't think you guys are going to go home. Rogue has realized that now, too, so he has decided. Dude, how much energy is this ability? He's now above 130 energy, and he still cannot use it. I am, of course, very familiar with all the details in StarCraft 2. Not nearly as familiar with StarCraft 1, but I would imagine that it's 150 energy for the ability to be available. My god, you need to have this unit out for literally minutes. You need to research it as well before you can actually get the job done. He has now face checked, and I think he saw some of the SCV mining right over there. Is it 150? Yes! 150 energy for the Spawn Brutling ability. He could go ahead and use the Infest Command Center ability if he really wants to. Not something we normally see in StarCraft 1, but this is still a really cool army, though. He needs to just get the units in position, right? He doesn't really know exactly how many siege tanks there are at this point in time. In the games that I have casted of StarCraft Evolution so far, I will say that the spellcasters all seem ridiculously powerful. And there we go. An insta-kill on a bunch of those units. I think the Hydras are honestly doing a fine job just by themselves. It's messy, it's a little clumsy. I don't think Rogue is too comfortable playing with these units just yet, but he is still just destroying Bjorn here. It's not over. The problem is that Bjorn has very little economy, and his units just don't really seem to do particularly well against the Zerg army. Not like Rogue is particularly rich. He's sitting at only 62 drones here. But it's honestly all a little bit... It feels flimsy, right? This entire Terran army just feels like you can sneeze at it and it dies. Can we go ahead and invest the command center? Is that the plan? Is that what we're going to be doing? We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what this research is, because I do not recognize the icon. No, it's just Ensnare. Okay. A little bit less exciting. Ensnare, though, is still extremely powerful. You can kind of compare it to, say, for example, a fungal growth type of ability. There is, however, a new command center over here in the top right. And I feel like that's one of the ways in which this game can still slip out of Rogue's fingers. If he let the Terran player escape with all of this stuff. Another medevac, it seems, goes down over here on the left. This command center is going to get denied. We've seen a lot of the other Terrans, by the way, with StarCraft 2 against Brood War Zerg. Really enjoyed Terran mech. And I wonder if that's the reason why that's the case. Like, if this is right over here in the game, right? That explains to us why we usually see Terran mech. Look at him experimenting. He's getting a little bit of everything. More and more lurkers, more and more queens. This map is fascinating. I really do like it. I would love to see some regular StarCraft 2 matches on a map like this as well. It's very different than what we normally see at the very least. Also, a reinforced biodome as a wall-off. Kind of neat. Now, Rogue is struggling, though, getting the job actually done. I thought I saw a Greater Spire earlier. Maybe he was planning on it. No, it must have been something else. Ultra Cavern is another option. We are going to go for the Defiler mount. We do have the Geometry Meiosis. Meiosis. I do not recognize... Well, I know what Meiosis is, but Brood War. I do not recognize exactly which one that is. What ability does that unlock? It increases the queen's maximum energy by 50, and it increases the queen's starting energy by 12.5. Okay. Yeah, we basically are just getting stuff. We're just researching whatever we can. I think you've got enough queens as it is, Rogue. Maybe if you want to make 100 of them, it's not a terrible idea. But you've already made, like, usually you would wait for energy upgrades, right? And then make the unit. Rather than make the units first and then research it. We're going to be getting both of the Ultralisk upgrades as well. It's going to be very nice to get those Chompers out on the battlefield too. I'm surprised, actually, that Bjorn is still sort of okay. Like, this game has not been looking too good for Terran across the board. But Rogue is also not finishing it off. Still, though. Yeah, there's the ensnares being landed. This is still a Zerg army that needs to be respected. At this point, Rogue is also able to replace them with Ultralisks right now. We're going to be seeing the big chompers. And these also do look extremely nostalgic. Command center is going to go down. We do have a lot of ghosts in the mix, by the way, so yeah, they're still pretty darn good. I wonder how good ghosts are going to be against these StarCraft 1 Ultralisks. The snipes are awesome, though. Yeah, getting a couple of those, a couple of here, a couple of there. Ooh, there's another ensnare, though. It's going to hurt. Is there enough Zerg army to clean this up at the moment? I don't think so. Here, look at these guys. I love them so much. They look so derpy. They look very skinny. They're kind of awesome, though. And you know what? They are closing the distance to this entire Terran army. Okay. Lucky for us. Game number 3 in this series is working. Nice. There's something about those Brood War Ultras. So Brood War Ultras, if I'm not mistaken, are just about as fast as Zerglings with speed, but they don't deal splash damage. So the entire unit just changes dramatically, but it's very, very fun to see. Now, apparently we have swapped from the teal and pink to a little bit of a red versus blue instead. Fair enough. It is nice, though, to see the continued development here by the team. It's a pretty significant group of people working on it, by the way, which is pretty sick. We are now on Sylphid, a map that we have seen games on before. So one of the big changes that they have reasonably recently made to the game mode is standardize the amount of resources per base. So this is something you don't really think about all too much, but StarCraft 2 is very much so designed about continuous expansions. So they've changed this when we went from, like, say, Wings of Liberty to Heart of the Swarm, and then from Heart of the Swarm to Legacy of the Void. In StarCraft 2, they drastically reduced the amount of resources you have in your starter base. And they already had reduced it compared to the amount that you get in Brood War. Obviously, if you were then to just port over Brood War to StarCraft 2 and not really change a whole lot about the maps, not really change a whole lot about the game, you just end up in a situation where you are supposed to expand very rapidly, but that's not usually how you do things in StarCraft 1. You can go for much longer all-ins. Now, initially, when we saw this mod introduced for the very first time, we would go from StarCraft 2 maps and we would alternate them with StarCraft 1 maps. So in the one map, you would have a ton of resources and you would never have to really expand ever. You would never really have to get a third or a fourth. And then in the other maps, your bases would run out by like minute 10. And now it seems like we have sort of found like a middle of the road approach where all of these mineral fields, they have more than StarCraft 2 standard, but less than Brood War standard. So it's like a middle-of-the-road approach, and that's also why every single one of the maps we're playing on will have something like Evo in the name, something like SEL in the name. Even though the names may be familiar to a StarCraft 2 fan, maybe the map will look identical as well, but usually that means that the mineral fields at the very least have been adjusted to be standardized across the board. Roach Warren right here for Rogue. Ooh, we're gonna go into some good old medics. Oh, I have my soundboard. Here we go. That was well worth the 10 minutes that it took me to add that to my soundboard. I requested the developers, whether or not it would be possible, at least, to add the sound effect when you click on the Academy for replay files, and they tested it out, and apparently it didn't work. Yeah, you can't apparently just add that, so I can manually do it myself. A lot of the other units, though, do have their good old classic sound effects. You could tell, for example, by the Hydras and then also the Zerglings in the previous game. And I would imagine we're going to notice the same thing right now on those Marines here in just a moment, although the sound effects are a little bit more in the background compared to, again, StarCraft Brood War. Cool. Just to change them up a little bit. Of course, engineering base can fly. Supply depots cannot. They can also not go down. So you have to be a little cleverer with the way that you build up all of your stuff. Academy, though, is going to be finishing up the Stimpeg research and the Marine Medic push. Ranged upgrade coming up. Oh, no, actually, this is the +1. We should probably see the ranged upgrade here for the Marines in a moment, too, but that's the +1. They're researching over here inside of the engineering bay. You want a piece of me, boy? Oh, that's the stuff. Do it! Okay. Yes! Is it just me? I can't tell if it's nostalgia. I didn't even play Brood War when it first came out. But the StarCraft 1 sound effects are something else. Like, the more I think about RTS game design, and I know I've said this a dozen times before. Anyways, the more I think about RTS game design, the more I realize how on the money StarCraft 1 truly is. They didn't even really design this game to be an esport. Right? Like, that wasn't their goal. They didn't even bother updating anything for like a decade when it did become an esport. But my god, is it just so clean and so crisp, and yeah, there's something very simplistic, but also very nice about it. Lovely stuff. Siege mode, of course. Getting research. That's the ranged upgrade right there. The U-238 shells. The 238 shells. If they were to ever make a StarCraft 3, and you would have to, like, make a list of units you would want to have in that game, there are some iconic StarCraft 2 units as well. Like, I do think there are some units that are, in my mind, objectively better. Like, I think Broodlords, for example, are more exciting of a unit than a Guardian. But across the board, the StarCraft 1 units really are just so freaking solid. I think Stalkers are probably better than Dragoons. Yeah. But for the most part, pretty much all of the StarCraft 1 units hit the nail on the head. Alright, let's see. Little hit squad over here. Marines are so nice, by the way. They are now going up against an enemy that they did not have in 1998, and that's going to be the Ravager. Should be relatively easy, though, to micro around it, but nice little hit squad of units here. Hive coming up already, though, for Rogue. He's now getting Zergling speed, +1/+1 for the Roaches. Banelings are going to be getting their Speedy Boy upgrade here as well. And Rogue has done a great job defending here. Even though he lost a base, that base wasn't really the end of the world. Okay. Looks like we are indeed going to be going into the good old science vessels. Science hurts! Is that what they say? I think that's what they say. There is something as well about the visual for siege tanks in StarCraft 1. They look a lot more thrown together, you know? These look more like tanks that somebody built in their garage. Somebody just found a bunch of pieces and made their own. Don't think you can do that with a StarCraft 2 tank. Map is massive, by the way. So many expansions and so many mineral fields too. Now, Irradiate is available. That is a spell you can cast from the Science Vessel. And it deals a hell of a lot of damage to biological units. Little Zergling scouts are running all around the place. Ultra Carbon yet again. Yeah, Rogue probably still thinking of that previous game. But you know what? I don't really mind the idea of going Ultras against this type of Terran army either. I think they did actually increase the audio on a lot of the Terran sound effects. A lot of the Brood War sound effects in general. Ooh. Am I crazy or are those... Sorry, I'm backing up a little bit. Are those siege tanks also... The explosions look different. Sorry. Little Zerglings, can you come this way, please? We would like to see you die a second time. I'm gonna slow the game down. Those siege tank animations, the fire... Yeah. That's beautiful. Certainly updated. Certainly different than it was last time around. We're back up to regular speed. A lot of these structures, by the way, are updated too. Like, you can tell that, for example, the barracks, that's not a StarCraft 2 barracks. The factory, however, same for the starport, are straight up from StarCraft 2. So I know that slowly but surely they seem to be making their way past every single one of the structures, every single one of the units, and they're making a Brood War equivalent, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of work, by the way. Like, somebody actually has to design all of that stuff, and obviously there's not a lot of money going around, so it's just a passion project where someone's trying to spread the love of the game. Little Baneling roll by over here. Bjorn gonna pull the boys. Siege tanks need to be careful with their fancy new fire, that they're not going to be killing their own buddies. Spire coming up right now as well here for Rogue. I wouldn't even mind it if somebody made... like a modern RTS game, fully inspired by StarCraft 1. A lot of the new RTS games are trying to reinvent the wheel, which is nice and all, but it never really turns out to be that great. Something beautiful about Brood War. Now, the Zergling run-by was nice, but it also has been cleaned up very effectively. 4 SCVs only have gone down. It's the same with Warcraft 3. I think Warcraft 3 is another one of those excellent games. Man, Blizzard really was on a roll there for a while, weren't they? Pretty crazy. Especially when you think of the stuff that Blizzard has been making over the last few years. It just doesn't seem... Anyways. That's a discussion for another time. Ultra trying to get rid of these Terran units. But, I mean, there's plenty of Marines nearby. Still, though, you can see the strength of armor, right? Armor is not to be underestimated. Irradiate is going to help out. I love the green fireworks on all of those units. And is there enough for the Terran player to just stand his ground and fight? There is indeed. Bjorn immediately is going to strike while the iron is hot. He was thinking of running away, but then realized, wait a second. As long as that irradiation is gonna keep on carrying through, I can just stand here and immediately counter. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Remember that candy that would like pop in your mouth? Like you would... I feel like it feels exactly like that. I don't remember what their name was, but Pop Rocks? Is it Pop Rocks? Pretty sure that's what that Ultralisk is experiencing right there. Maybe that's what the science facility does. The science vessels. They're basically ice cream trucks, except for candy. Yeah, I will say that across the board, the StarCraft 1 spells are just all ridiculous. They're all so strong. Now, of course, they are as well in StarCraft 1. Don't get me wrong. The StarCraft 1 spells are a little bit insane. Stuff like, for example, Dark Swarm is certainly pretty ridiculous. If I can criticize the game, I think most spellcasters can be quite confusing. Especially to, like, casual viewers. And I think this is a problem as well in StarCraft 2. Also in Warcraft 3. Every single one of the spellcasters has multiple abilities. And you use them in very niche scenarios, and... yeah. I feel like if there's one thing that I would change, I would make the spellcasters more simplistic. Probably also reduce the overall strength of splash damage. Especially in StarCraft 2, I think there's a little bit too much splash damage if I have to be critical. Alright. There's no room for you guys. I'm sorry. But maybe you can do some chomping over here. Zerglings go into the main base. Maybe you guys can get ferried with the next round. Oh, some irradiation now. Sorry, guys. You're gonna get, yeah, candied to death. Oh. Oh! No, I think they're still taking damage. Yeah, no. That is a little weird, a little funky. But they were still dying, even inside of the balloon. 13 SCVs, though, have gone down. A lot of the Terran units are also disappearing in the middle of the map. It's really not fun, by the way, to be a StarCraft 1 guy in the missile turret. Look at the man in the missile turret. The StarCraft 2 ones certainly spin pretty fast, but... Whee! Yeah, no, they gotta spin them in reverse at the end of the day, because this can't be good. You spin me around, but maybe right round. Brave group of Marines here trying their absolute best. I mean, dude, you can say what you want, but Rogue is such a monster, right? Like, Rogue is somebody who never gives up until he hears the bell. And look at how much damage he's doing. I really felt like he was in a pretty atrocious position just a little bit ago. But he has been putting in the work to try and claw his way back in. Nidus worms, mass drops, big counterattacks, multitasking. Beyond really unable to get that main engagement that he's been looking for a while already. Because Rogue is just not letting him go. Yeah, Rogue is a beast. Of course, in StarCraft 2, both of these players are previous world champions. It's very common to see players sort of like give up mentally, you know, where you like, know you're kind of dead, you're kind of behind. I feel like Rogue uses that energy to try and just pull off whatever comeback he can do. Like, he will use this as an opportunity to think, okay, yes, if I continue down this path, I will very likely lose the game. So you know what? Double Nidus, mass drops, I don't care. I know my opponent can defend this. But if I keep going down the road I am on, I'm also gonna fail, so I may as well just test the waters. And he may just be pulling off one of the best comebacks I've seen in a while. Yeah, Irradiate is good, but it's not Snipe. Snipe just gets rid of those Ultralisks within a second. Irradiate deals a lot of damage over time. But it still allows the Ultra to put in a bit of work for a while. Okay, Bjorn is adding on a lot more siege tanks now. I mean, Bjorn is basically just playing siege tanks, marines, and what are they called? Science vessels. That's all we're doing. Look at the minimap as well for just a second. Rogue is taking everything. Ooh. Now we do need to see a little splitty over here on these units. Or not. Zerglings dropped right on top of the siege tanks that just popped out of those factories. These are not cheap by any stretch. Bjorn is still maxed out, but his bank is mostly gone now. He still has a lot of minerals, but obviously no mule, or sorry, a lot of gas, but obviously no mules available to be quickly gathering the minerals that he needs. Ultras in these choke points are insanely powerful. There is a counter-attack in the meantime too. Bjorn trying to get those siege tanks in positions where they would be useful, but look at the Ultralisks, man. Both StarCraft 2 as well as StarCraft 1 Ultras have been stealing the show. 21 Ultras. But I think all of them cost-effective-ish, sort of. Maybe not all. Look, in a straight-up engagement though, I'm still favoring Bjorn's army. It is massive, it's way more expensive too. And if you can somehow force the Zerg to, yeah, do a defense instead of an offense, I think it's a very winnable game. Ooh, again. So freaking good, man. Irradiate. Banelings, Banelings, Banelings. He's hoping for a lucky strike. I mean, he dealt a good bit of damage, but not quite enough. There are some Ultras here inside of the Nidus network yet again. Rogue's still at 91 drones, by the way. Siege tanks are covering all of the outer bases. So that means that these Nidus worms are indeed going to both get denied, but there's another one still in the main base. The main base is slowly being torn apart. It's been slow going. Rogue is trying his best. Likewise, though, Bjorn is doing a great job putting on counter pressure. Oh, I love this too, using that defensive ability to keep that siege tank in the choke point around for longer, forcing those Ultras to be derping about a bunch. What an absolute war we are witnessing. Seriously, what a bloodbath. Now, Rogue doesn't have a lot of income, or at least it feels like he's kind of broke. He has been outmining his opponent for a long time. Normally in StarCraft 2, this would be the point where your bases are going to dry up. Like, normally this would be the point where even, like, the outer expansions are going to be mostly empty. But look, there's still a ton of mining going on here. This one is still pretty much full. Same for the one over here. He's taking a new one down south. Bjorn is trying to make a push for the throat. So he is trying to go to, yeah, where all of the important tech of the Zerg player is. We're kind of at a spot as well, though, where the Rogue could just, like, remake some of those structures and be mostly okay. It's gonna take a long time for Bjorn to push deep onto creep. Okay. The music, by the way, that you're hearing in the background is all official StarCraft 2 music. Basically, what ended up happening, and I didn't even notice until one of the developers of this game explained it to me. Blizzard made a lot more songs. We're going Swarm Hosts! No way! He's making Swarm Hosts! Okay, Blizzard made a lot more tunes for StarCraft 2. For example, with the Nova Covert Ops, when that came out, and with other updates. But they never enabled those for multiplayer matches. So I don't know if this tune in the background specifically is something we do know from, yeah, the Nova Covert Ops. I don't know. But it's all official Blizzard music. It just was never utilized by Blizzard themselves, other than in probably campaign missions, maybe co-op, something along those lines. Pretty sick. Because it's always very appropriate for 1v1 matches too. Now look at this, we have a Spore Crawler round right over here. And I guess the idea is that we're going to launch the Swarm Host Locust from the Zerg's main base. I love this too, man. Siege tank dealing friendly fire. No! No! What are you doing? Oh my lord! That siege tank just killed the mineral line. Anyways, now that the siege tank has done its job, that's when we send in the Locust. Nidus Worm goes back in the main base together with an Overlord drop as well. One of the worms is going to die. Dude, this is one of the best games of StarCraft Evolution ever. This is sick. It just feels like a war to me. StarCraft 1 Terran in general feels a lot more brutal, a lot more grimdark. The siege tank numbers are ridiculous. We're at 30 siege tanks. Nidus Worm in the back of the natural expansion. Some of those 30 siege tanks have been set up to defend the bases. I wonder if the Swarm Host transition here was a good call, but look at the resources now, though, for Rogue. Rogue suddenly 6,500 minerals in total. Has a lot more money available. Likewise, Bjorn has been slowing down a little bit. I wonder if on maps like this, you could actually have an hour-long game. Kind of feels like it. Irradiate once more coming up. But the Ultralisks now know they're going to die, so they may as well run in for a little while. Good bit of eco damage, though, has been dealt yet again. Ooh, he doesn't want to give up on the base. We have some shields being put onto the siege tanks again. That's one of the spells right over here from the science vessel. Basically, it just adds a flat shield on top of the siege tanks, meaning that they can take more damage temporarily. It's a great way of dealing with ultras and zerglings like that. And that is 13 drones down the drain. Ha! He's gonna try and burrow some of them, which apparently does work against the Irradiate. Interesting. Actually, Irradiations right there have been thrown onto the science vessels themselves somehow. Siege tanks, though, left by themselves, too. Ah, it's painful, man. It's a lot of tanks dying. Sure, Bjorn can replace them, but that's really expensive. We are at a meager 20 siege tanks only now. 20 tanks at the moment with 5 on the production tab. The Locust waves, though, are still putting in some work. Another hatchery bites the dust. The drones over here will continue mining for just a sec, but then, well, realize that the Terran is once more just about to approach that expansion. We have individual corruptors, by the way, just being a nuisance, poking at the science vessels that have been flying around willy-nilly. Siege tanks, of course, do have a minimum firing distance. So when Zerglings are hugging them like that, they cannot quite reach them. What an absolute bloodbath. This, by the way, I think is not StarCraft 2 music. I think this is the ported over version of the Brood War music instead. Which is also pretty sick. You can technically activate those as well for 1 versus 1. But I've never really found a reliable way to actually get it done. Like, there's a setting that says only StarCraft 1 music, but then whenever I enable it, I still hear StarCraft 2 music. I don't really know what's going on there. Maybe I'm the bottleneck, I don't know. Maybe I'm the problem. Either way, it is nice. We're playing Lingbane Swarm Host. An odd combination. Ooh. Science vessels, though, have found the target. And that is gonna get rid of those swarm hosts once and for all. Well, at least some of them. Dude, that's a crazy play. Now the Corruptor's coming in as well. They also get irradiated. Marines on the ground, some missile turrets. Whee! Still having fun as well. In the meantime, though, this is now an opportunity where Rogue decides to move off creep. He had a very large mineral bank not too long ago. Both Rogue and Bjorn had a very significant bank, but now they are fully depleted. So that I think means that we are approaching the final stages of the game. Bjorn needs to figure out a way to deny the mining of the Zerg. Okay, these little engagements over here are not bad until the Banelings show up. Yeah, that is a problem, because the Lings alone are probably going to be good enough to get rid of the tanks. GG, Rogue gets another win. Okay, that takes us to the map Pylon. A map we are all much more familiar with. But of course, well, we still have some StarCraft 1 units here. Plus, can we bump up the music? There we go. Bump it up. Woo! Oh, played this at my funeral. Okay, I can't hear myself think. Played this at my wedding, my funeral, when I was born. I don't know. But clearly, this is what we need to listen to more. It's going to be a very fast spawning pool right here for Rogue. Yeah, I think this is how we know that time travel isn't real. I mean, Future Loco would have gone back to the past and told my mum that we should have listened to this when I was born. Clearly, that would have been the right call. The only problem being that I was born before StarCraft 2 and well, definitely before StarCraft 2. I'm old! But also before StarCraft 1 came out. Anyways. I guess if time travel was real, that wouldn't really be much of a problem anyways. Now, what are we gonna do with the very quick metabolic boost upgrade, Rogue? We already tried going for a Ling Rush in the first game, which was the second game of the series, but the first game we saw. Are we gonna once more send the boys across? I mean, to be fair, Bjorn is playing pretty greedy. We already have a third hatchery being planted right out in the open. It's something that Bjorn will see right now. He's like, okay, hatchery, hatchery. This one in the natural is late, though. Do we recognize indeed that there are going to be links with speed here in just a moment? Yep, he clicks the gas right there, so he sees on the extractor that there's been plenty of gas mined. And that means that links will likely be getting their wings here in just a moment. Actually, I don't think they get wings. Do they get wings? What visually, did that change anything? I know there's a fight going on in the main base, but we need to look at... Okay. Do they visually just run faster? No, they just flip a little quicker. They don't get... Okay. They don't get their wings. Only in StarCraft 2 they do, I guess. I know some animals, I guess, do get wings, right? Ants, like, for example, I think when they do, like, their, what's it called? Nuptials? Nuptial flight? Does that mean that all the Zerglings over here... Is it only the female ants that do it? I'm not exactly sure. Anyway. Nice little bit of harassment here from Rogue, but I don't think it's really going to achieve too much. Already, though, the lair is done. Hydra then on the back of this. Yeah, does that mean that every single Zergling is male? I don't know. We need to go deeper. We're going to continue the bloodbath from the previous game for a little bit longer. Lair's just about to finish up. Wait. Yeah. Lair's just about to finish up, so we can go again into the good old Lurker aspect. I don't know how comfortable I am, by the way, with this Lurker... Or, sorry, this Hydralisk den being, like... angled differently. It looks pretty much the same as the StarCraft 2 Hydra den, I think. It's just at a different angle? Maybe it is different, actually. It might just be tilted slightly differently. Anyway, Bjorn is gonna try and make another move for the low ground base. And at this point, the Marine numbers should be big enough. Stimpack is just seconds away from being done as well. So that'll make it all pretty manageable. But I mean, if the Hydras are going to be arriving soon already, and Bjorn is not even really, teching up in any way just yet, this could become massively problematic. I mean, we're gonna have like 5-minute lurkers. How do you deal with lurkers as a Terran player if the lurkers are here in your base at like 5:30, 5:40 or so? I guess your only chance is to scan and YOLO in? This may be an incredible timing attack we are watching. Yeah. It's so fun how Rogue in game number 1, at least the one that we saw, seemed a little bit... I mean, I don't want to say hopeless. That was the name that came up, or the word that came up. That's not quite the case. But he was clearly experimenting. And now we're already doing timing attacks a little bit later. Now he wants to be in at a correct moment, though, when those Marines are busy. We gotta move those lurkers 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 4 at a time, sure. Oh, he's moving all of them. We are on a timer, right? Like, the longer we wait, the better this is gonna be for Terran. So, he's trying to leapfrog them forward a couple at a time. You never really want to unsiege all of them too much. There is one scan available. Is there enough, though? We sent the boys in. This could be an absolute bloodbath. Dude, Rogue is so aggressive. I would have never microed my lurkers like that. This feels crazy risky, but he knows that the Marines and the SCVs are going to be preoccupied by the Lynx that are just throwing themselves at them. And at this point, we are witnessing a one-base contain. How in the world do you deal with this? Now, Ovi is going to be getting close too. Rogue is trying to get high ground vision. The idea being, of course, that you can still kill, for example, that siege tank over here. Still, though, the Marine numbers are big enough. Oh, even the Overlord dying sound effect is awesome. Well, you know what? Well, I love what Rogue is doing here across the board. In theory, it's amazing, but Bjorn is doing a pretty darn good job holding on. Like, the bigger the siege tank numbers become, the better this is going to be for him. We only have 2 at the moment. The third one is going to be available soon. Medevac numbers are also slowly growing. Terran economy is not amazing, but it's not like Rogue's eco is anything to write home about. He starts up a third base right now. Now, Rogue going for the retreat. They're such a funky unit, aren't they? How many legs does one need? Look at how they walk. God. This is absolute nightmare material right over here. Seriously. They kind of look like crabs, I guess. How many legs does a lurker have? There's something funky about it. Do they have 5 legs? Honestly, all of the StarCraft 1 units look like nightmare material. They really did dumb a lot of stuff down a little bit for StarCraft 2, right? Look at these Hydras as well. Creepy. Very, very creepy. Okay, Siege tanks. Slowly making their way here. Pylon, of course, does have this great choke point that Terrans love to use against Zerg. And it'll be quite difficult for the Zerg to be able to overwhelm this. You have a couple options. Either you use, like, for example, Blinding Cloud. Now, not an option here, of course, for Rogue, but... Alternatively, you can try and, well, swarm all over it. He decides to go for the full counterattack. It's a dangerous play, but we've already seen this in the first game we watched. No, I think this choke point here is a little too good. In the meantime, the hatchery did die on the other side of the map. Scan over there will reveal the final Lurker. And with the third base gone, I think Bjorn can feel pretty happy. We have a new expansion that's just about to finish up, though, for Rogue. So Rogue is certainly not ready to tap out just yet. But Bjorn is going to try and see if he can make him. That's another Lurker dead. Siege tanks are sieging up. Splash damage is going to be ridiculous. GG gets cold. Bjorn evens up the score. And look at that. Huh. Next up, we find ourselves on Andromeda. Map number 5 in this best of 9 series. Now, this has been a very quick command center on the low ground right here from Bjorn into a triple Rex. Again, I don't really know all the intricacies of Brood War build orders, but this does seem a little crazy. CC first into triple Rex. It certainly means we're not going to be able to get a whole lot of Hellions and Medevacs going, but I don't think that will be much of a problem here for our Brood War Terran. Yeah, maybe because of the fact you can go into the medics quite easily this way too. It's not a bad idea. Bunker at the front to keep you safe. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we do have the good old standard opener here for Rogue. Nothing all too odd. Beyond really a fan of bio play so far, right? I would really like to see some vultures as well. Something like vulture. Yeah, vulture mass spider mine seem to be very popular. At least that's what we saw a lot of the other Brood War Terrans mess around with in this mod. It seemed like the way to go. Instead, we are building up the academy. We're going back to school where we learn how to use combat drugs. Don't know what sort of school this is. I've heard of them. I'm pretty sure this is what my mom thought high school was like. But not quite the case here. For, you know, most of the Netherlands, as far as I'm aware. Either way, Bjorn is going to be able to send the ladies out again on a nice little counterattack. Or timing attack, rather. So I think this is going to be another one of those medic marine pushes. The medics really are going to be nice. Here we go. Ooh, even the bunker unloading there sounds cool. Let's see. Did someone page me? A medic! That'll be my best impression for today. Subscribe to see more. Okay, here we go. Is it good enough, though, against roaches? That's the question. He's a little early. Oh, no. This is awkward. Bjorn arrived about 15 seconds early. There we go. Yeah, it would really have helped if we didn't show these units on creep. Like, 20 seconds before we planned on using the ability because we didn't have it unlocked yet. Rogue literally got a full production cycle of roaches out because Bjorn spoiled the surprise. Bjorn's the type of guy that will call you about your own surprise party. He's like, hey, did you know that there's people waiting in your house when you get home? It's like, Bjorn, come on, man. You were supposed to... Oh, well. Siege tanks are going to be the name of the game here in just a moment again. Yeah, Bjorn's spoiling everything. Bjorn's the type of Terran player who reads the final page of the book before beginning it. Apparently that's the thing. I read about this once upon a time. Now, I haven't fact-checked any of it, but supposedly, the enjoyment that people experience reading books, on average, goes up if folks read the final page of the book first. Apparently, this is something people do. And they report enjoying the book better because of it. Isn't that crazy? This is why I have trust issues. There's many reasons why I have trust issues, but this is one of them. We're building 2 infestation pits right next to each other. I don't know why. Wait, Rogue just selected it. We just saw Rogue selecting it. Weird. Yeah, apparently it helps people focus on main characters more and actually follow along with story arcs a little bit better. Because sometimes, especially in, like, you know, some fantasy settings, it can be quite confusing who you actually need to be following along with and what you should be cheering for and all the rest of it. And apparently spoiling yourself and then reading the story is a way that people... I don't know. I don't know, man. I read about this on the internet. And if it's on the internet, it must be true, right? Because we all know, lying on the internet, not allowed. Nobody has ever lied on the internet before, so... yeah, it's apparently what some people like to do. I don't. No, I'm not one of those people. I really like the medics. They haven't really done too much just yet. They've been trying their best, right? Look at them, healing everybody up. They're such a cool unit. Ultras are coming again, though. I would like to see some more of the skinny Ultras in this series. We'll have to see if that'll be an option. But... so far, Rogue has been a Ultralisk enjoyer. And again, Björn is not going Terran mech. This is him playing full bio. Waiting in the tall grass is a Terran army. Not yet a Zerg force here to really easily surround it, but I think Rogue is feeling really confident with the way that this is all going. He's just macroing up, defending everything nicely, getting all of the important upgrades. They're a bit late, maybe, sure, but we have a really quick Ultras here to make up for it. And once those Ultralisks are fully maxed, I think it'll be a difficult task here for Björn. I mean, Björn is turtling pretty nicely, though. We want more of the missile turret guy. Whee! Having a good time. Having a good time. That's nice. Good to see. But securing a new expansion is going to be really tough. I have just started listening to the audiobook of the 4th book of the Stormlight Archive. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, the Stormlight Archive is phenomenal. I can highly recommend it. I read book 4 a few years ago, but I don't really remember a lot of the details, so I figured, you know what, I'll listen to the audio version of it. The audio version is 57 hours long. 57 hours? It's too long, man. It's too many hours. I'm gonna lose track of what I'm doing at least 14 times. Alright, well, even though Björn was ready to turtle up, he's now using all of the units that he was previously setting up for the defense to go on the offense instead. I would really like to see Blinding Clouds here from Rogue. I think Blinding Cloud would be a really powerful tool. Little Zergling, not even a Zergling, little Ultra Roach counterattack. Okay. These pushes, man. Rogue is so well known for them, and he's so freaking good at them. So, the reason he's pushing with this is because he doesn't want the roaches anymore. He achieves 2 goals. First off, he gets to replace the roach supply with better stuff. And the second goal is that he buys so much time for himself. The previous fight looked pretty difficult for the Zerg to get done, but now, I mean... yeah, but more and more of these researches ticking by. I mean, when this is finished, suddenly I think this Terran army is something that is very killable. We have Vipers, by the way. I think Vipers are an excellent choice. Blinding Clouds onto the siege tanks. This Terran army is going to say goodbye in just about a heartbeat. He is going to lose another base, it looks like, though, if he's not careful. Vipers are going in. Vipers are throwing their Blinding Clouds down. I love this counterplay, though, from Björn. Parasitic Bomb as well is powerful, but you know what? The shields right there from the Science Vessel coming in clutch. Zergling Ultra counterattack in the meantime, too, but that's a nice little play there from the Terran. Anticipating the Vipers. Throwing the Science Vessel ability onto the affected siege tanks within about a split second. Still, though, the Zerg units are slipping through the cracks. These counterattacks from Rogue are absolutely relentless. Bjorn's still pushing. Man, the Marine count is getting ridiculous. 69 Marines here in total at the moment. Normally, I'd say that's pretty nice, but I think it's too much. Really? Couple of Marines over here? I mean, it actually works. The Ultra is stuck. The Ultra attacked both of them. Are Ultras the way to go? Honestly, the medics here are like the unsung heroes. Did someone page me? I mean, I don't even know what paging somebody means. Maybe I'm not that old after all. But the Marines are not going to be good enough. I don't know what a pager is. I have no idea. Anyways. Marines going in. Problem is, this Zerg army is relentless. Yeah, GG gets cold. Rogue obtains another victory. Next up, we find ourselves on a map called Radion. Now, I just looked it up. I remember my dad did have, apparently, what is in English called a pager. Although, either my dad referred to it as a... He used to call it, I think, a beeper. Which is like, I guess, like the English equivalent would be like a beeper. I'm not exactly sure. Either he just called it the wrong name. But because it beeped, that's what he thought would be the easiest thing for me to understand with my, I don't know, 7-year-old brain. I'm not exactly sure. Anyhow, I'm very glad, by the way, that the rest of this series is working. I was a little concerned that this entire series would somehow be corrupted. Just game number 1 was inaccessible. It looks like every other, well, at least all of the matches so far have been available. It's pretty crazy, actually, to think about. It's not even really that long ago. But you would just have this thing on your belt, and if it started beeping, you would have to go into the office. What if you just pretended that you didn't hear the beep? That must have happened. Where people are like, oh, I was like totally taking a shower. I know you beeped at like 2:30 in the afternoon, but I was like totally, oh man, I didn't hear it. I'm not sure. But I immediately find faults in the system. I guess it would probably beep again. And again. And again, until you said, I have heard the freaking beep. It's going to be the Zerg playing with the Brood War units here. As you may have already noticed, Rogue taking his very first expansion right over here. A little bit of a funky thing to do, but it allows you access over here to, well, this little bit of creep if you want to use it. I gotta say, by the way, I really like how every single one of the maps has a different visual effect for the creep spread. I know some people really don't like the patchiness of this one. I've had a long discussion about it on stream in the past. I am a fan, though. I think it looks pretty sick. There's a couple different visual effects available for creep spread in StarCraft 2. Most people seem to enjoy the most basic version, where it's just a completely dark color and it's just, you know, very clean and easy to read, but it does look nice. I think this stuff right here does look really fancy. Well, once more, mixing things up a little bit. Rogue adding on a much quicker evolution chamber this time around, which, by the way, I never noticed this, but apparently the evolution chamber has an exhaust. Just like the hatchery buttholes. Either that or there's like a, I don't know, maybe there's like a fire inside, you know? You know when you build like a tent or like an igloo or whatever, you gotta like make sure that the carbon monoxide doesn't kill you? Or carbon I don't remember. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm not a scientist. Apparently the Evo chamber has one as well. How nice is that? Very quick Hydras here. So Rogue has been, yeah, getting the Zergling speed nice and early. Every single game so far, he's been using the Zergling speed to be the aggressor. But I guess he's figured out by now that Bjorn is never going to be that guy. Bjorn is never really pushing until, like, the medevacs are out, so we may as well, at least not with StarCraft 2 units, right? We may as well go ahead and just test the waters and go straight to Hydras. We're building hatcheries right next to hatcheries right next to hatcheries. There's the Queen's Nest already. I wonder if this is going to be for a hive or if we're just trying to, like, do something fancy. Honestly, though, I wonder also if maybe Rogue has been a little too greedy. Rogue has nothing. Rogue has all tech, all drones, all buildings, but he has no army. And that can be problematic when your opponent hits a good old 16 Marine drop timing very, very accurately. By the way, in case you ever want, like, a general guideline on this sort of thing, 5 minutes on the dot is when Bjorn arrives with 2 full medevacs and Stimpack inside of the opponent's main base. I have seen Diamond League players attempt this build, and they show up like a good minute later than this. Very sharp attack here from Bjorn. The next map is Subsequence, or Subsequence, or Subsequence. Either way, I've seen this map before. I think it was part of a previous Team Liquid map contest. It has a lot of these, I don't know, these weird-looking high grounds everywhere. They're just all over the place. I don't mind it, though. So, interesting layout, right? So you have a, not a tucked-away in-base expansion, but I guess an easy-to-take third right over here, but then with less mineral fields on it? Curious positioning as well for the very first supply depot and barracks. Bjorn making, maybe he was originally intending on making them over here, but then he already had the resources available by the time he got to the low ground, and then he realized, okay, I'll just plant it right over here. Bit strange, but yeah, this map does look like a skate park. Next time we are going to Subsequence. Bring your skateboards. Do people still skateboard? I don't know. Believe it or not, Young Loco used to do a lot of skateboarding. Nah, I was never any good. I know you're picturing me being good at something now. No. I could only do the absolute basics. But it was the one activity I did like to do whenever my mom would, you know, force me to go outside and be social with friends and all that sort of stuff, you know? How annoying. How annoying indeed. Roachborn coming up. I feel like Rogue in general has been playing some very confident StarCraft. In the previous game, clearly a little bit too confident. Seriously, a little bit too far. But you know what? You gotta limit test every once in a while. Björn is playing this all very passively. Björn, by the way, has decided that we're only doing Marines and Medics. Basically with Brood War Terran. Marines, Medics, and then Siege Tanks. And then Science Vessels. But mostly Marines and Medics. Yeah, we had a skate park pretty close to where I grew up. It wasn't a fancy one or whatever. But whenever I wasn't allowed to play RuneScape all day, aka every day, according to my memory, we did frequently go there. Now don't worry, we talked about RuneScape at the skate park. There's a lot of RuneScape in my life. Alright, let's see. Yeah, he sees the roaches again and Bjorn's like, ah, crap. It's those units. I do really like the way that the Marines and the Medics work together, but they're so much nicer to play against Zergling-based openers than they are against Roach-based starts. Roaches just seems to shut this sort of stuff down. Nice little bit of micro right here as well from Rogue, trying to bring back some of those weakened units. Dead Medics are everywhere. And this is a nice trade, right, for the Zerg. 1 Roach for 1 Medic and 4 Marines is not bad whatsoever. Especially considering he's been rather greedy yet again. The music, by the way. Woo! So nice. Ooh! Oh. 1 second of excitement. We had the spider mines researching for just a moment, but then immediately swapped it out for the siege mode instead. Fair enough. Fair enough, Bjorn. Look, Bjorn is a bio man. Guys discuss this all the time, right? Are you a bio man? Are you a mech guy? Well, Bjorn, certainly a bio guy. Getting a whole load of those bad boys going. Can we get a nice little timing attack down, maybe, Bjorn? I do think across the board, I've been a little bit more impressed by the way that Rogue is playing. But the scoreboard is not lying, right? It's very clear that, well, Bjorn can still put up a fight, and he could certainly obtain the victory in this series, too. Bjorn just looking a little bit less inspired across the board, or maybe just very confident in just the good old Marine armies. Man, we're all the way up to 30 plus Marines all again, 6 minutes into the game. Man with gun. Ever since Bjorn went to the military, that's been his go-to. And you know what? We're gonna bring the men with drills for arms as well. This is going to be an all-in here from the Terran. I don't know if it's any good, though. I mean, there's a lot of upgrades coming up here for Rogue. The longer that this goes on, obviously, the longer he waits, the worse this is going to be for Terran. These siege tanks are gonna have to kill basically all of the banelings. I mean, with good micro, though, this is a Terran army that can definitely get the job done. But here we go. Is there enough? I mean, so far, it looks like there is. Whoa, that medic did take a corrosive bile to the face. Baneling Nest does die. We need 1 more wave like that, Bjorn. If you can do 1 more wave of defense like the one that we just saw, I think you've got this one in the pocket. Okay, we gotta dodge the biles a little bit better, though. But all the banelings are gone. He targeted all the banelings. Now the drones are getting pulled as well, though, from the 4th base. Roaches trying to get this around. Both players losing a tremendous amount of stuff. Dude, those medics are just keeping those Marines alive for so freaking long. Is there enough, though? Yeah, it's still... I think it's still good enough here for Rogue. That was about best case scenario for Terran. But Rogue already had such a big eco that he is going to be able to lose a ton of drones and still come out ahead. And that takes us to beautiful Vermeer. Match point right here for Rogue. I gotta pronounce that in the most Dutch way possible. Vermeer. Welkom op de map Vermeer. Op de kaart. Het bord. I don't know what you would call this in Dutch. Honestly, doing Dutch commentary is gonna be... Yeah, it's gonna be one of the worst things. I know a lot of people are into horror games at this time of the year, but casting a game of StarCraft in Dutch, now that is pure horror. Jump scare after jump scare after... Okay, I think we can guess what Bjorn is gonna do. Bjorn is gonna play Bio. Rogue, though, playing good old Brood War here, is gonna go for the safety creep colony. I like it. I recently played a game called Mouthwashing. That entire playthrough is currently up on Morloco, in case you're interested. That's youtube.com/Morloco. I do want to check out a couple more spooky games. At least one more, I think. But I'm still not entirely over Mouthwashing, man. That game is crazy. Ugh. Psychological horror definitely is the correct description. Now we have a 2-base Muta opener here from Rogue. It's very fast Mutas. This is quite a common way to start things off in Brood War, with the very quick Sunken over here, using this hatchery to create a choke point. Mouthwashing is a game about a group of people that are basically running like a space trucking setup. So they are bringing stuff from A to B, and they don't really know what their cargo is. Now they strand in the middle of nowhere. And after a few months, they run out of food, so they decide to break open the cargo hold. And it turns out the thing they are shipping is mouthwash. Just mouth. They have an insane amount of mouthwash on board. Now, what happens when folks are stuck in space? No food, no water, but thousands upon thousands of bottles of mouthwash. It's a crazy idea for a story, I'm not gonna lie. But let's just say that their breath was minty fresh. Alright, here go the Mutas. Look how cursed these units look. Their Muta wings, there's something wrong about these. I mean, they're beautiful, don't get me wrong, and they look a lot more like Brood War Mutas than StarCraft 2, obviously, but their wings look so paper thin. Very fun. Very fun unit. Still though, this is a Terran attack that needs to be respected yet again. Obviously a polar opposite of what we saw earlier. Bjorn again trying to hit a 5-minute timing attack with Stimpack and not combat shields, but medevacs. And you know what? I think it works again. Yeah, this is a disaster for Rogue. Rogue wants to play Mutas into Lurkers. And then Bjorn said, yo, I have men with gun. They're wearing the most manly collar you can imagine. And while maybe eventually Rogue can clean this up, it's already a bit disastrous. Bjorn has decided that he is going to sacrifice the medevacs, but buy as much time as he can with them. Yeah, Rogue realizes that that's what's happening, so he will kill one, but not chase down the other. Yeah, Mutas are a big fan of the letter C. It's incredible. Still, this has given Terran, of course, a lot of time now to prepare against the Mutas. Missile turrets are already set up. Less of a wee, more like a lot crazier in Brood War, for sure. Mutas hit hard, though. Brood War Mutalisk, in general, do have a different damage profile, I guess, than the StarCraft 2 ones. So these guys are very, very powerful. But they're not going to be able to fight a big chunk of Marines like this. I don't think so, anyways. They do have 120 life, which is identical to the StarCraft 2 counterpart. New command center inside of the main base. And Björn is showing us why those very classic Terran openers for StarCraft 2, like the 16 Marine drop, are still just so freaking strong. Now, he needs to be careful that he doesn't overextend, though, and this might be exactly what Rogue is looking for. Yeah, these push-outs with this many mutas up in the air are always dangerous. You're unlikely going to be able to make it a two-way trip. Whenever you push with this many mutas out, and this goes for StarCraft 1, but also for StarCraft 2, when you push against mutas, usually your pushes become one way. And that may have just thrown the advantage away, to be honest. Björn was looking in a very comfortable spot just now, but then he decided to move with half of his army for no apparent reason at all. He probably thought that he could just go and squeeze out a win. Maybe if he would have brought all his units, who knows. But that was a little overly ambitious. And now the muta numbers are also looking, large enough at least to potentially break in. They can start fighting some of those marine clumps reasonably well. These mutas do, by the way, seem a lot more reminiscent to the StarCraft 2 mutas. Maybe they are actually identical. Usually StarCraft 1 Mutalisks are more powerful. But these guys, they certainly have the same, let's call it paper plane-like qualities as the StarCraft 2 Mutalisks usually do. What are we doing? Rogue, what are we planning? Is this a misrally? No, it's just a misrally. Okay, I thought for a second we were going to do something crazy. Not quite the case. Yeah, now Björn is getting to the point where securing a third base becomes highly problematic. Rogue, though, is still kind of in the all-in mindset, where I really feel like he doesn't need to be. But he fell behind earlier, and he still feels like he's playing catch-up, but he's totally fine. If he wants to go into Lurkers, for example, this is an easy opportunity to go ahead and do so. If he wants to deck up towards a Hive, maybe go into Ultras. I mean, I loved the Ultras in that second game, in game number 2, the first game we watched. I really liked them a lot. They were so freaking fast. Anyways, we have that as an opportunity. But will we go ahead and do so? This is a difficult fight to read. But I think Björn just has the numbers here. Yeah. So overextensions on both sides. We saw an overextension from Björn earlier, now an overextension from Rogue. That is mostly due to the fact that, well, we just haven't had either of the two players play nearly as many games of this as they have played, well, probably both StarCraft 1 as well as StarCraft 2. Those are the type of engagements that you get a lot better at reading, just the more experience you have. Now, are we following the overextension from the Zerg up with an overextension from the Terran? Probably not. Nice little bit of micro over here as well to Thor. Rogue says something. Björn says, ha 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 ha. I don't know what he said. But apparently it was funny. And apparently we are going to game 9. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 9 series. Takes place on a White Rabbit. Now this is one of the maps from the Team Liquid map contest. Curious that we are already testing evolution matches on this one too. Alright, Björn with the Brood War SCVs, Rogue with the StarCraft 2 drones. Okay. I'm hoping that this one game is going to be the sickest game of them all so far. So far, I do have to say, StarCraft Evolution has been an absolute breath of fresh air. It's been really fun as well to see the excitement on the side of a lot of viewers. I did upload a few previous videos already of the StarCraft Evolution mod. You may have seen those over on YouTube, but I did make a playlist for it too, by the way. If you look at the Loco TV YouTube channel, you can find a playlist with all my Evolution casts. But it's been a lot of fun as well to see the excitement on everybody else's end. Sometimes I get really excited about a custom mod or, I don't know, some sort of StarCraft 2 arcade map, and I've made videos about it in the past. And I have learned that it's mostly me that gets that gets excited over it. Everybody else is like, yeah, okay, whatever. But this one certainly seems to appeal to a lot more people than just Loco. That's nice. I'm like, guys, look at how awesome this is, and everybody's like, we're not gonna watch that. Yeah. StarCraft Evolution, though, seems to hit the exact spot. Now, of course, one of the reasons why this mod is made in the first place is not just because of fun, but also because it bridges the gap between StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. So, as you may be aware, especially over in Korea, where both Bjorn and Rogue are from, StarCraft Brood War is a significantly more popular game than StarCraft 2. And in a way, this kind of connects to audiences that are feeling very separate. A lot of the StarCraft 1 pros have tried out this mod. Likewise as well, it's brought a lot of the StarCraft 2 pros to testing out Brood War again. A lot of them obviously grew up playing Brood War. And while maybe we don't see each other all too often, the StarCraft 1 and the StarCraft 2 communities, it's like a family reunion, right? It's Grandma's birthday. It's when everybody shows up again. Nice to see. Whoa! That was not my soundboard! Wait a second! Sorry, could you hear that as well in the distance? They did it! They figured out a way to do it! No way. I clicked it a few times already and then I blasted over it with my own. Shout out to the developers of StarCraft Evolution. They've probably been watching this all the way through and they're like, it's in, you idiot! We figured it out! We took a week to put the freaking sound effect in you asked about. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't notice. But I noticed before the end of the cast, so that's nice. Hey, we're going for a Firebat timing attack. Rogue, for once, is not going roaches. And this could turn out to be massively problematic. Keep in mind that medics can also heal Firebats. Firebats can also use Stimpaks. Oi, 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 oi. Is this how it's all gonna end? Dude, Firebats are insane. Honestly, medics are insane. I love Firebats so much. They're so sick. Oh my god, they just murdered everything. I think, though, yeah, with reinforcing units now popping out and the medics out of energy, that the Terran army is gonna get cleaned up. All the queens are dead. Spinecrawler died, 25 Zerglings, and then 7 drones as well. It's painful. But Rogue is not dead yet. Bunch of Zerglings here actually now getting to wrap around as well, and some reinforcing Terran units, and that is painful. Beyond overextending yet again. Now we're getting a very scrappy game out of this. Economically speaking, Bjorn is fine. But I always feel like Rogue is the more comfortable player in chaos. We are going to be sieging up one of the tanks at least, so that's nice. But that was a bit of a reset. And in the end, yeah, with that second pack of units dying, I mean, obviously it's still a pretty terrible spot for Zerg. But it's less of a terrible spot than it originally seemed to be. The main problem is the queen losses. Bailing Nest coming up right now, but there's no lair. And without Lair, you can't go for a Baneling speed. This is a silly move out here from Bjorn, if I'm being honest. This is another army that will likely just get destroyed, although maybe I'm wrong. Medic goes in the back. This looks like a donation, doesn't it? Yeah, look at Rogue. He fully agreed. He was making drones whilst seeing those units. He doesn't care. Right now, the scan reveal here for Bjorn, or the scans rather reveal that there is indeed no Lair yet. So Bjorn may have just thrown away a massive advantage. That's a little bit unfortunate. At least unfortunate for him. Not unfortunate for Rogue. And honestly, not unfortunate for anybody watching this either, because it means the games go on. We're going to transition right now towards a good old science facility, so we can once more, start pumping out those science vessels. Science vessels have turned out to be incredibly powerful so far. Infestation Pit likely here for Hive. Double upgrades coming up as well for Rogue. We're going Baneling speed. Those upgrades are a little problematic, but Bjorn not going straight into 2-2, maybe giving up that little advantage here as well. He's still making so many Hellbats. How do Hellbats work against mass speed banes? Because I'm a little bit afraid that the Banelings are just going to roll in and that the Hellbats are just going to be dead. Look, now he starts up 2-2. This should have been a minute ago. It's given Rogue certainly at least one step closer to catching up in those upgrades. Irradiate is researching. Hive is coming up. Obviously, right, this has been a tiring series as well for both of these players. I believe the first game, the one that we didn't get to see, sadly, because the replay corrupted. That one apparently is about 10, 12 minutes long or so. At least judging by... Ooh, really? So these guys, what I'm saying is they've been at it for like, about 100 minutes at this point, which is always tiring. We're going Microbial Shroud. This is apparently the time for Microbial Shroud. Now, judging by the fact that it's something that has to be researched, it does mean that we are indeed on the most recent balance changes for Zerg for StarCraft 2. This, in case you're unfamiliar, now also reduces the incoming damage from ranged attacks by 50%. In the past, it was only for incoming attacks from air. Now it's also anything with ranged, and all of these Terran units are ranged. Little dropship coming in. Very powerful unit, of course, as well. Imagine if, like, the dropship... Imagine if the dropship and the medic were, like, one unit. How crazy would that be? Irradiate going down. Infestor decides to just go in for the YOLO push right there. A little bit of a fungal. Now, merging two units into one sounds like a pretty crazy concept. I don't think that'd be even remotely balanced. Jeez. A little bit of a wasteful way to clean it up, but I guess they're dead. Alright, Ultra Cavern is going to be here. Siege tanks are going to be coming out in large numbers yet again in a moment. Sorry, ladies. Are you guys all ganging up on Jimmy? Damn, look at Jimmy over here. What a player. Anyways. All the medics want a piece of that boy. These units over here are going to get surrounded as well. Yeah, Jimmy has never been higher HP than he is right now. Oh, somehow, some way, these units do survive. It's because we have a bit of a push as well, at least attempted on the right. Ah, okay. Both players mixing it up now. Apparently, we're mixing it up in the final game of this series. Vultures are coming up. Spider mines are being researched. We're going into mech upgrades. Ultras are coming. We've got ourselves microbial shrouds together with fungal growth as a potential here for the Zerg. I have no idea how this is going to be resolved and how any of this works out. Ion thrusters. It's the movement speed for the Vulture, if I'm not mistaken. These bad boys are right over here. Look at them T-posing inside of their little motorbikes. Yeah, these pushes are scary, though. These Ultras are really, really tanky. And you can see that the Banelings just rolled through everything. Oh, Rogue is also just straight up destroying a mineral line here. Yeah, Bjorn not prepared for this at all. Bjorn just did a very large investment into infrastructure. But then he didn't have the units out of any of it yet. At the very least, he wasn't in the perfect position either. So those have been some of the most cost-effective Ultralisks that we have ever seen. Microbial Shrouds, Irradiations. We have the shielding ability as well from the Science Vessels too. Spells upon spells upon spells. But look at that Ultra not dying. Okay, now that everything has worn off, there's only a maximum duration on the Microbial Shroud, but now that everything wears off, the Ultra immediately does pop. But the supply count certainly is reflecting the result of this fight. Terran economy is just down the gutter now. And Rogue is gonna rinse and repeat. Bjorn was hoping that he was gonna get at least another minute or so to just turtle up a little bit and macro, well, his way forward. But this is not looking too good anymore right now for our Terran world champ. Yeah, irradiation's really good, but the Ultras are just not dying so quickly here. They just keep chomping. "41 SCVs have now died in total in this game. Bjorn is at about, well, not quite half the supply of his opponent, but it's not looking all too healthy in that regard. Spine crawlers coming up on the left side. Sorry, that seemed appropriate too. All right, let's see. I don't think Rogue is going to give his opponent too much time to breathe. Obviously, he knows he's got a massive eco advantage at this point in time. So why give the opponent too much of a chance? But he also knows it's a literal minefield out there. Spider mines are just being sent in. Irradiation, though, is really powerful. And that was an expensive push. Another Ultralisk trying to find a little solo party around the left. Doing a little bit of dancing by himself. And while, again, Bjorn will clean it up. These are cost-effective fights, but Rogue's economy is just too big, isn't it? We're adding on a couple Corruptors here, too. 8 Corruptors available at this point in time. More are going to be joining in. So I think that will likely be the end of the Science Vessels. And when the Science Vessels are gone, I think the Ultralisks and the Zerglings can just, yeah, get free roaming on the Terran side of the map. So here we go. Corruptors just send in by themselves. GG. Wow. GG immediately gets cold. What a phenomenal series of StarCraft Evolution. It's so nice to see this mod still in active development. And still, like, updated too, right? Like, compared to what we saw a few months ago. Well, maybe not even a few months ago. Maybe only about a month, maybe a month and a half or so ago. It's once more a little bit more refined. Well played right here by Rogue. In the earlier games of this series, it kind of looked like he was testing stuff out. He was just trying his best to figure out what units now do what. But then as the series progressed, you could notice that he was settling in more and more. And by the end of it, I mean, that was a very dominant performance. GG.